Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to another week of Good Medicine Way. Tonight we have another good speaker. Um, she is very wonderful, but we'll do the introductions of her later. Um, so for this past week, it's been kind of crazy. So, and the prayers I'm going to be praying about uh, water resources. So, needing of water, needing of rain. So, just an update, and then also an update of a prayer for fire, the fires that we have in this New Mexico state, and the prayers that we have. Just a quick open prayer. Um, um, so again, my name is Preston Jones. Mm, I can. Touching the thing that touching Bashichin, Kitlichin, Dashiche, Ashin, Dashin, that's my clans. Those are who I'm born and live by because I have so, and I know my family so well. And it helps me to understand where I'm from, what part of the Navajo Nations that I originate from. Um, so uh, I'm here on the Navajo Reservation again, uh, in the Theru kind of area of New Mexico. So I grew up here for a great amount of my life, and I enjoyed it. Uh, so begin with the prayer. We'll go straight into the prayer for 4 directions. Father, you show us the great morning sun. You allow us to have this great vision of the day and great morning light. You allow us to remember the cold, and but at the same time allow us to remember the feeling of warmth for the first morning of light of the sun. Give us that increase our morning of strength and energy, and be able to continue at that for the day. When we look to the south, we think of wonderful skies. We think of beautiful winds. We think of the blue of of the day. I pray for the waters of, that we are lacking water and we haven't had a rainfall here in a while. And so please, the land needs it. There are fires that are needing to be where the firefighters need help. So great Lord, you are with us, but the mother of the land needs water. It needs
Yes.
participation. Um, when we look to the west, we see our great Father. We see the sunset. We see the glory. Here we hope and pray for the fires that are happening all over the place. The fires are getting worse. The ones in Santa Fe, the ones around. Just please allow us to be remembering we're supposed to take care of this place. We are supposed to be the caretakers of the land. We are allowing to do what you want us to do.
Yes.
So when we look to the north, we think of the things, the dark skies, but reminding ourselves of our ancestors that have passed on before us, that are with you, and allowing ourselves to be with them, allowing that we are their prayers, and reminding ourselves our we're part of the prayers that they've been praying for so long, and we want to honor them and continue their legacy. And we want that legacy to be through you and have a path so all people that hear this, the legacy of our ancestors is part of you. oh great Lord, his prayers and lift them up to you. Okay, as you want to sleep, as you want to sleep, as you want to sleep. Thank you. And next up we have George Joe Lopez for Creation Insight.
Thanks, Preston. Hi, my name is Joe Lopez, and I live in southern Los Angeles on the traditional lands of the Tongva. I'm descendant of the Pueblo people south of Albuquerque and Apache people up in the Black Mountains on the west side of the Rio Grande Valley. And so I was asked to share again this week. And so I took some time out of my week to pray about our time and I kept being reminded of time and the concept of time, the concept of that it takes time to grow things. I went and collected some medicine this week, and how much time that takes for the earth to produce those medicines. And last night, my family and we sat out and watched the moon go through its change last night of hiding behind the earth. And I have an interesting relationship with the moon. It wakes me up every month when it's full. Usually around 2:00 in the morning, and I get up, and sometimes I stay up till the sunrise. But I just felt it. I felt like encouraging. I felt encouraged, but then also to encourage us to take the time in our lives. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. That was very interesting, especially with time. I've been actually thinking about that too. Something similar. Um, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Something was weird, but again, thank you, George. That was very Joe. Joe Lopez. Uh, Next up we have Sue Martel for This Week on Turtle Island.
Yep, actually, Megan Krishke.
Oh, Megan. Hi, Megan.
Yay!
Hello. Hello. Hi, I'm Megan. Koyo Mataru, Megan Krishke Ajetsa, Wendat Aja Atuten. Like I said, my name is Megan, and I'm a member of a citizen of the Wyandotte Nation. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, under the sovereignty of the Muskogee Nation on the traditional lands of the Caddo and many other tribes who use this area for hunting grounds. And Leah invited me to tell just a little bit of some of the Wyandots' story of coming to Oklahoma and of our like tribal recognition history. So we were originally at the New York-Canada border, and it's an Iroquoian language and culture group, but we were kind of traditional enemies of the Iroquois Confederacy. So we weren't part of the Confederacy, but shared cultural things in common. You know, in the midst of the first the trading and then kind of the settler colonial invasion, we were pushed down into Michigan. There's a group of us. There's still a group of us in Canada, and then there's a group of us that kind of got left in the Detroit area. We spent a number of years in Sandusky, Ohio, and then were removed to what is now Kansas City, Kansas, which is in Wyandotte County. And at that point, we were told, like, okay, this is where you get to stay. It was considered Indian country at that time. But then they created the Indian Territory here in Oklahoma, and folks were given a choice. They could stay in Kansas, keep their lands, but they'd have to give up their tribal citizenship and become U.S. citizens, or they could move to Oklahoma, live on federally run lands, be indigents of the state, but keep their tribal affiliation. So there's a group in Kansas, and then which is state recognized. The one in Michigan and the one in Kansas are both state recognized, and then the group in Oklahoma is the only one that still has federal recognition. It's kind of interesting because I only recently learned some of the dates of when we did and didn't have federal recognition. So we lost our recognition in the mid-50s during the termination era. And I'm not totally clear on the details, but something was never finalized about it, or something funky happened. And we were reinstated to federal recognition in the mid-70s. And why those dates are interesting to me is my Wyandotte heritage comes from my dad's side. I'm Cherokee on my mom's side, Wyandotte on my dad's side, Irish on both sides. But it was always kind of funny because that's where my citizenship was, but I always felt more kind of connected to the Cherokee community where my mom grew up and knew more about what was going on there. And my dad was born in 42 and married in 66. So the time that, like, he lived close to his tribal headquarters, but pretty much the whole time he was there, the tribe wasn't recognized. So I was like, oh, that answered a few questions about why there was sort of that disconnect. And then we had our chief now is great, but we had this most wonderful chief for 20 years who, from, oh gosh, what would it have been, like 80s sometimes? Maybe it was more than 20 years. So he started sometime in the 80s. He passed away in 2012. But just really helped to reestablish the tribe, created some economic diversity for us. And in the late 90s or early 2000s, we kind of reconnected with the groups that, we got separated from along the way. And now there's like a confederacy, and we try to get together once a year. And so that's the story of the Wyandottes. Is that what you were hoping to hear, Leah, or do you have specific questions?
No, that was perfect. Just to give us kind of an introduction, because yes, I saw that on this week in, I think, 1978, the federal recognition was reinstated, and yeah, I just wanted to get a little Show people a real live Wyandotte.
There are a few of us, but even by the time we were moved to Oklahoma, most of us were white passing. So this is like, if you come to our annual meeting, this is what everybody looks like. And if they're darker, it's because they're also have other tribal heritage. So this is the gene pool we ended up with. But one just, I guess I'd add one more thing, is that they've recently been expanding our cultural heritage department, and it's just been wonderful, the things that they're doing, reviving traditional plant gardening things. They're teaching people to make moccasins. They're doing language classes. There's no fluent speakers of the language, but we have some recordings and people who've done a lot of work to try to save that. So there's some good cultural revival going on. And I've only been back in Tulsa for 2 years. I was in Colorado. Well, I say back. I always lived in Colorado. My parents are from here, so I feel like I moved back. But I've only been back a couple years, but it's been great to be able to reconnect and be involved here. So thank you for inviting me and for commemorating the reestablishment of our federal recognition. Not that we need the government to recognize us, but it does help with certain supports and rights. So yeah,
Thank
that's
you,
all.
Megan. That was really great to hear about. A lot about your culture, your tribe. I didn't know that. Next up, we're gonna have the Grovers. So they're gonna give us a couple of songs to sing along to, jam out to, and if you even want to, you can keep a camera on, or if you're somewhere, you can dance along. Just make sure your mic is off. But we want to see that. So enjoy the music, and Grovers, take it away.
All right. Let me see if I can get everything clicked over here. Part of the reason we were late in getting on was, of course, I'm always trying to do crazy things. So let's see. So we're going to try, if I can find my mouse, we're going to try 2 songs here. We're going to do Come and See by Jonathan Miracle, and then we're going to do Fly by Guy Peters. And hopefully everything will sound okay for you guys out there. Come into the throne room of our God, our God. Come into the throne room of our God, our God. Let His presence take you higher. Let His presence take you higher. Thanks to His working hand, His presence seen throughout the land, molded from Creator's hand. Come and see the beauty of His holy love, His holy love. Come and see the beauty of His holy love, His holy love. We are one tribe. We are the remnant, born of the word, spirit and fire. We are warriors. Breath of life fills me, brings the rain, brings the fire. Wind of life takes me, bring the change, lift me higher, and we'll fly with you. Lord, be our wings, we'll fly with you. Up where the eagles sing, way out here, way out here, way out here, way out here, way. And with the eagles sing, way out here, way out here, way out here, way out here, way. Lord of the earth, bring the rain, bring the harvest. The season has come to raise the pie to your honor. Word of life, we praise you, we bless your name, for it is holy. From the hills, Yahweh, we will sing, return to glory, and we'll fly with you. Lord, be our wings, we'll fly with you. Up where the eagles sing, way out here, way out here, way out here, way out here, Yahweh. And with the eagles sing, way out here, way out here, way out here, way out here, Yahweh. Holy is the Lamb, and the King of Kings. Holy is the Lamb, and the King of Kings. Holy is the Lamb, and the King of Kings. Holy is the Lamb. Now with the eagles sing, way out here, way out here, way out here, way out here, Yahweh. Way out here, way out here, way out here, way out here, Yahweh. Fly with the eagles and sing, way out here, way out here, way out here, way out here, Yahweh. And with the eagles sing, way out here, way out here, way out here, way out here,
Thank you, Grover. That was awesome. Now we're gonna have a time for announcements. So we have announcements, just even a small one. We would like to hear it. our first announcements will be, you can share at the end when everyone in the team has shared. First announcement, it will be offering. So offering will be at the PayPal at the top of the Good Medicine Way page on Facebook. So find that link to the PayPal, then you can set up your donations there. Next, we have, can you talk about women's group on Wednesdays?
Sure. All right, am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, so now we've just started the First Nations version, Book of Hebrews. So that's open to all women, and it's Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And you can get through that also on the Good Medicine Way Facebook page, either right there on the wall or just in the events tab. It'll be there, and we'd love to have you. We'll, pray a bed, and yeah, just check out the First Nations version of Hebrews.
The dogs are sharing. The dogs are sharing their own creation insights.
Yeah, they have announcements to share. I guess it's the announcements we have for now. Didn't anyone have 70 announcements? Well, before the dogs want to share more. I guess we'll move on to the reading of the word. Then
Can we tell if Sylvia Shaquan has she made it here? I didn't know if she was going to be able to make it in tonight.
Let's see.
on the line, scrolling back and forth, and I didn't see unless Sylvia, are you here? I'm a chat.
Okay, I can read it if Sylvia's not here. We got Matthew 18, verses 12 to 14 from the First Nations version. The worth of the little ones. How do you see it? He asked them. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the mountainside to go and find the lost one? If he finds that lost one, I speak from my heart, he will find more joy for that one than for the 99 that were not lost. In the same way, your Father from the world above does not want to lose even one of these little ones. The words of Creator.
Thanks be to God. So again, our speaker will be today Haiti. I like to call my sister. She is great. She does everything that the mothering, nurturing person needs to do for people to understand how or when they've lost their way on the path of love and light, and she makes them reignite their light, especially the students that she gets to work with. It's so great to be able to see her progress of her growth with Christ, and be able to, having the strength to share her learnings and teachings with everyone. So, Heather, take it away.
Hello, welcome. Yeah, I can see that the sun is not really hitting my camera very well, so I apologize for that. So today was Matthew 18, 12 to 14. And this one made me think of a lot of different things. And it keeps going back to a lot of things that we're dealing with now, especially the Native community, the Indigenous community, but not only in the United States, but all over the world. And I just want to reread it again because it's just been, I guess, one of those ones that you need to hear twice. The worst of the little ones. how do you see it? He asked them, if a man has 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the mountainside to go and find the lost one? If he finds that lost one, I speak from my heart, he will find more joy for that one than for the 99 that were not lost. In the same way, your Father from the spirit world above does not want to lose even one of these little ones. It just made me think of the first thing that it made me think of was actually the missing and murdered Indigenous people, because it just reminds me of how many people are lost, not only in the physical sense, but in the spiritual sense, in their mental sense. Like, there's a lot of hate in the world right now. And I've always wondered why I was able to see, not able to see, but I always wondered why I would see suffering more while I was growing up. And so reflecting on it now, I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot of lost people out there. As I'm reflecting on it now, that's what I started to think about. Not only lost people, but lost children. And then when I thought of the children, and that made me think of the boarding school children. And I just realized, I was like, there's a lot of loss. Even today, like, I've seen a lot of the headlines and seeing the pain and how people are treating one another. Especially for someone who is lost. Like, for Creator Sets Free, for the man, for himself, like, he says that he will leave 99 to find the one. And it's just one person. So it just really filled up my heart with gratitude and comfort, because, like I said, like, how many lost people there are that are out there, especially those that are Indigenous people. So just thinking about that, like, how much he loves the people that much, just to leave the flock and be like, okay, I found this one. And I always think of actual sheep when I think of a lost sheep too. And there's like a cartoonist one out there, and it's a sheep, but it's a rainbow sheep. And you see the sheep going out of the pen, or being thrown out of the pen by other sheep, but they're black sheep. And you're like, oh, wow, I think that kind of sums it up. Because for the missions, especially for North America, like, it was based on a government policy, save the man, kill the Indian. But as one of my panelists that I was on for the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women for Human Trafficking Gateway, she said that it's by any means necessary. That was the line. Underneath that was by any means necessary. And that made me think about 1 Corinthians 13. I was like, wait, if these are missions people and they want to teach about Creator Sets Free, but they do things that are the opposite of love. And Creator Sets Free through Paul, or small man in the First Nations version, he writes it out in 1 Corinthians 13, and I have it right here. The way of love. I may have the gift of speaking in both the languages of human beings and of spirit messengers. But if I fail to love, my words become like the screech of a cat or the yelping of a wild dog. I may have prophetic powers and the ability to see into sacred mysteries and understand all things. I might even have faith strong enough to make mountains move. But if I fail to love, I am nothing. I may give all my possessions to the poor and give my body to be burned as a sacrifice. But if I fail to love, I have gained no honor. Love is patient and kind. Love is never jealous. It does not brag or boast. It is not puffed up or big-headed. Love does not act in shameful ways, nor does it care only about itself. It is not hot-headed, nor does it keep track of wrongs done to it. Love is not happy with lies and injustice, but truth makes its heart glad. Love keeps walking, even when carrying a heavy load. Love keeps trusting, never loses hope, and stands firm in hard times. The road of love has no end. The time will come when prophets are no longer needed, when people will stop speaking in unknown languages, and when the need for knowledge will fade away. For we only know some of the story and can only prophesy small parts of it. But the time is coming when we will know the whole story from beginning to end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child, and I saw through the eyes of a child. But when I became fully grown, I put my childish ways behind me. For now, it is as if we are looking at a poor reflection in muddy water. But then we will see face to face. For now, my knowledge is full of holes. But when that time comes, I will know the Great Spirit as well as I am known by him. But until then, these three remain: faith, hope, and love. And love is the greatest. And then when I first read this, it was actually through Preston, because he went to take Alaska on a missions trip. And this was their verse that they would read every day. And I was just like, oh man, it breaks my heart every single time. Because it's like, there's this type of love. I don't really see this type of love being represented by people very well. I see people loving to hate more than anything else. And that is not love. I believe like there's some philosophers that are saying, like people will know, like they have morals, like they know right from wrong. But to say that the wrong is right, that's on a level of, I don't know what to call it yet. That's where I've been exploring a little bit too. I'm not sure about the word. If you guys know the word, you can drop it in the comments, because I'm like, blinking, but yeah, it's just how much people confuse hate with love, and people not understanding what love really is, especially for Indigenous people, because of the boarding schools, because of the things that have happened to Indigenous peoples, and to clearly know and understand, as a sound mind human being, like that's not love. And to have these things done in the name of Creator Sets Free, like that's what hurts the most, because as I was growing up, like it was a Catholic church for my community on the reservation, and it was there that I actually met Jesus. And for a while I didn't quite understand him, just because of how much evil I felt in that church, even when I was that young. Because I've always been able to feel energy around places, and when I first met Jesus, like I felt light around him more than I felt the light around the church. And so when I had a bad experience there, I just felt the need to be out of there, and I never went back. So and to this day now I understand why, because there was a lot of abuse. There was a lot of things going on behind closed doors that were not supposed to be happening. And I think that a lot of these things that are happening in this world and that have happened in the church too need to be talked about, just because of how that is loving. And it's hard too, because love is not happy with lies. And being in a lie is not being truthful or honest, or even, like I said, loving to yourself. And because I had to be honest with myself about where I come from and my background and what I've experienced through the government and through people that I trust and know as family, but I didn't really receive the care that I needed. And because of the boarding schools, my grandparents are actually boarding school survivors. My late grandfather, And still breaks my heart because I had to hear this story after he passed because he could not speak about it. And it was only my grandmother that knew. And so I had to write a story about them. And so I asked my grandmother questions and not my grandfather because he was really sick at the time with cancer. And so when she told me the story, I was just like, wow, cannot believe it. And then she told me her own story after that. And that one just like got to me as well. She said that my grandfather at the age of 14 was taken from his home in Bread Springs, New Mexico, on the Navajo Nation. And he was taken to a boarding school in California. I'm not sure how long he stayed there, but he ran away. And of course, it's in California, so he wants to come back home to New Mexico. So I don't know how he did it, because you hear all these stories about what happens to Indigenous people, like who are hitchhiking or trying to get from one thing to the next place. And just like how many people don't really care about Indigenous people, or not seen as human still to them. And so having this 14-year-old Indigenous Navajo boy hitchhike from California to New Mexico and coming home and not being caught and taken back. So that was, I was like, wow, it's like, I can't believe it. So how come he never told me? That's what I asked her. And she said he couldn't talk about it. And I was just, okay. So I don't know what his story is, but I do know some of it from my family, just because he couldn't talk about it himself. And then my grandmother, she said that she went to the mission school in Gallup, and they were pretty mean to her too. But she got less than a harsh treatment because she's an albino. She's actually really light skinned and she has light eyes. So she's white. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. There's Red's dogs running around and my dogs are trying to speak to them. And so, yeah, with my grandmother, she went to the Gallup Missional School run by nuns in Gallup, New Mexico. And when she was like 4 or 5, this white couple came up to one of the nuns and said, "We would like to adopt her." And they were like, she has a family, like this is not like an orphanage. So but the mission school didn't care to if they wanted to adopt the children out. Like they actually did do that in some cases, without telling the family members. So this in itself is a miracle, because she said that her grandmother, so this is my grandmother saying that it's her grandmother who came in and would pick her up every single day. Like she did not want to leave her child there, her granddaughter there. And so when she heard this, and when they asked her, the nuns asked her, like, can she be adopted out? You'd be doing her, a favor if she gets adopted out because she looks white. And she said, no, that's my granddaughter. She's not white. You cannot take her. You cannot have her. This is my granddaughter. Like, this is my family. It's like, and for you to ask me to have her adopted out is ridiculous. Like, I cannot believe you would ask someone to do that. And so, and it's interesting is that my grandmother said she didn't know English, so she said all of this in Navajo. So you have a very confused nun, but you can tell that she said no. And that was the only word I think she knew in English at that time, was no, and that's exactly what she said. And to have that no be honored, and to be like, okay, she's not going to be adopted out. And for her to meet my grandfather, who I think they met when they were 16. So not too long after he left the boarding schools. And so my grandfather endured a lot of that abuse, and so did my grandmother. And that showed a lot within the family, because he was an alcoholic, and it did show in a lot of different ways, especially now with my family members. So not only my nuclear family, but my extended family too. But not only my extended family, my father's side of the family too. all abusive, all alcoholics. Like there is even people who have married into my family that are pedophiles. And I just can't believe it because I'm like, how is this happening? Why is this happening? What's going on? What's going on with people that all these horrible things are happening right now? And so it just made me think of love and what my grandparents, but not only my grandparents, but their parents, what they experienced, because they also told me that they were abusive too, my great grandparents. So then that makes me think of the long walk and the mistreatment of the Navajo people. And it goes all the way back to first contact, like of how all of this has happened. Just the impact, like I am the product of that, of that colonization. And a lot of the people here too are the product of the colonization. And thinking that people are less than human when they're not. And that's a complete lie. And so that's why it came down to the missing and murdered Indigenous people. And I was like, yeah, they're still being taken. I know one of my uncles was taken during the pandemic. Just as soon as the pandemic started, like in the summertime, that's when I heard the news, like, oh, we haven't heard from him. We don't know where he is. He's usually so good about calling, but he hasn't called. So, and that was pretty shocker too, because this is an uncle who is actually a drug addict too. And then to hear other women too who've experienced this in their community saying that that's how they find them too, like they get them addicted to drugs. They're low income, like the resources are so low, like the people who are in human trafficking, I'm told that they said they would like pay for their phones, pay for things that they would need, help them out with food, things like that, and that's how they track them and they take. And so there's a lot of things happening that people don't really see or probably don't understand that it's happening. Because I know a lot of people who have never heard of this before, and it still baffles me. And at the same time, like, yeah, of course they're listening to the mainstream media and all these big social news anchors in these different places, but they don't talk about Indigenous people or what's going on within these communities. And I'm seeing a change like of that in Albuquerque, especially with this administration, with how they are enacting the Missing and Murdered Indigenous People Task Force, and there's one in Albuquerque. And they're doing the work of understanding and knowing why or where these people are. And that comes too with knowing the truth. And I think that when the creator sits free, he does know the truth. He does know what's going on. And I'm thankful that love is what is the most important. Because to me, that's because he's already won. Because he said love already wins. And I am thankful for that that's the case. So thank you for listening to me tonight. And if you have any questions or comments and or things you would like to say too that you feel inspired to say, by all means.
Thank you for sharing. It takes a lot of courage and strength to talk about our stories, as painful as some of them are.
Sister, I just wanted to tell you thank you for sharing as well. And I love you. God bless you. Grateful for your walk. Stay at it there. Stay with it, girl.
How's it going, Heather, Jim? Can anybody hear me here? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I'm curious about the boarding schools in California. I'm in California. I just wanted to know if you know of any of the names, because I've been kind of in the past, I've looked into the whole mission system and everything, I was actually taught by a professor, Apodaca. He was pretty popular in informing people about the genocide and the mission systems and like kind of like the concentration type camp, system that was going on with the mission systems and Hunapero Serra. And I'm just curious if you know the names of those boarding schools that your relatives escaped from.
That is a good question. I'm actually not sure which one in California, but I did hear of one, and I think it's a Saint Benedict or Saint something of a college church university, but it's a Catholic university college, and that was the mission school back in the day. So I know one person, his name is Devin Strum, and he's a student there. I actually got connected with him through Native University, and it was interesting to hear that because I didn't realize there were Catholics. Is what I'm saying too. So I don't really know much about it too. So, but he's looking into it. He actually says that there's a grant within the school themselves where they're investigating their own historical documents to see who was there and if there would be any unmarked graves. And I think that's in the LA area.
I believe Lisa has a question.
Hi, Heather. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Heather, thank you so much. I just want to tell you, I just so love all of your testimony tonight. It really touched me because everything you said is what's been on my heart all week. And I do some work with my family with human trafficking. We've been doing it for 15 years. And the one thing that always bothered me is I said, why don't they do more for the Indigenous people? They look for everybody else, but why not more of the American Indian or the Indigenous people? And when you spoke, it just spoke to my heart. I thought I was gonna explode. Like I said, amen. That means God's gonna do something for them to make these people come home again. He knows where they're lost and he knows how to find them. Oh, God bless you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, how much the little ones are worth. And even to like going into the framework of forgiveness too. Like that's since it's a process, and sometimes a lot of people are like, we want the end already. We want to have this wrapped up and not feel this way anymore. But at the same time, it's like this feeling has been around for a long time, and it just makes me ask the question like, how or like why is it like this right now? And I just keep getting the answer like, you know why. Like the enemy wants to destroy you. Like that's the main purpose of who he is. And so that's who I'm, and I can hear this too, like from Creator Sets Free, like that's who I rescued from. And it is an ongoing spiritual battle. And I love what the late Brian Bright Cloud said. He said, a born again Indian is a dangerous Indian. The enemy does not want us to be believers in the true Creator Sets Free.
believe, Mondo, you got something to say?
Hey everybody, Mondo here. Um, there, God is definitely up to something here regarding the past. I was over at the headwaters up in Lake Tahoe, and we were doing we were just led over there to do some land work and over the air and the water and worship. And we ended up doing worship over at the Hana Casino, and there was a lot of there was some intertribal people that were coming together that had not come together, and the glory of God had showed up so strong that the glory was actually in the men's restroom in the casino, and that's another whole story. But in that, we had met a gentleman named Wayne Allison. He's now graduated in the Lord, and he and his wife were at that time pastors over a Baptist community church that sat there in Carson City, Nevada, at the old Indian Steward School. And the rest of the campus have been taken over for training for like highway patrol and other departments, government stuff. But his dad had been taken as a child, same type of story as you were sharing. And anyways, in that boarding school. And then Wayne, the son, as he grew up, he had not been in that area in quite a while. He's Paiute. And anyways, it turns out that when we had connected, when we met up at the headwaters for the first time, he was so excited about bringing us down to his church. And it was like going back in time over at the old Indian school. And when I had arrived, I'm real sensitive to atmospheres. And I asked him, and I said, I go, there's a cemetery. I go, there's a cemetery, right? Where is it at? I feel it real close by. And he's looking at me and he goes, well, we do have a couple of cemeteries. There's one for the colony. They don't call it reservations over there. They call them colonies. And he goes, but there's a hidden cemetery. And he goes, I'll take you to it. And we walked across the street in the desert, and behind all these tumbleweeds, there was this small cemetery. And he's like, what are you picking up on? And I'm saying, I'm hearing the children cry. I can hear the cry. I go, I've not heard this before. I go, but I'm a firm believer if you can hear something or you can feel something, that the Lord may have you want to do something and just go with the flow. And so we went over there and we released worship. And he had said, he goes, Mondo, I've never seen, because we're releasing the drums, he goes, I've never seen the wind obey the drums before. And there was a great peace that came over. And I can go on and on stories like this, but it was evident as we started connecting with other different natives from different tribes, that the Lord had them all on assignments as they too heard the blood cry out. And there's been a lot of that area that is kind of known for a junkyard for ministries, especially in the native realm, because the drum is evil. That's what they're taught. So to bring the drum back into even a native church was huge. But the Lord's been doing so much. And so I just want to make that comment that it's obviously the Lord is raising up a team of people to heal the land and to answer the cry of the children, and every time I go out there, I can still feel the atmospheres, but now there's such a deep peace in that area, and now it's just building community where there's broken community. And I just want to make a comment and give glory to God that there is movement regarding some of these boarding schools, the atmospheres over there.
Thank you. That's a wonderful story. And it reminds me, I have heard stories of those too. I know Megan, who just left, she has one too for the Haskell University over in Kansas City. So, and that one too was pretty dark. I know a lot of these college campuses, especially since I work with Native University through the campus ministry, like I visited a couple of these campuses. And some of these former schools that used to be boarding schools too. So and they're pretty intense. And just like people perpetuating the ideas of colonization and not love too, and how people are being treated. It's been more apparent now that I understand more about what's going on, but still it's something to lead with. Creator sets free, and I do believe too that he is, and like our stories are telling us, he is making the wrongs right in the way that only he can.
Okay, here on YouTube, the Martells, who are involved with Catholic boarding schools, allowing investigations into the cemeteries and all the Catholic boarding schools. I believe just of America, they said that last Wednesday, 5 days ago, the U.S. issued a federal report with a list of 408 schools. Probably has the California school you were not sure about the name of, but it's probably on there. And the Martells also said the governor of Washington State has enacted an Amber Alert for missing Indigenous people. That would be interesting to follow up more on and hear more about those two. Also, our Kimberly Medicine Horn Jackson, who's involved with Good Medicine Way, and Nate's, she's real involved with the Boarding School Healing Coalition, a very important website if any of you all want to hear more. A lot of elders' testimonies are on there. So those people are involved with Good Medicine Way and also with investigating and cataloging all the boarding school testimonies, or the tallies of all the graves being found.
One thing I'm wondering about, Heather, a lot of people have talked about, like, seeing God starting to move in ways, and there's no easy answers. Someone I knew once said that we spend a lot of years tangling our lives up, so it takes some time to untangle them. And I think when you look at the historical trauma that's happened to Indigenous people, you're talking about centuries long of entanglement in briars growing into thick, hedges. But we still need to start the work to untangle that. And I'm just wondering, like, what do you think are good steps that each of us can take, moving forward, like with your work with young Indigenous people on campuses? Like, what's the sort of thing that really helps them to make sense of their histories and find a good way to move forward? Because like you were saying with the folks that entrap people, they have all these very elaborate schemes, and how they seem that at first they're helping, but then they really use it just to entrap people, and then that has its own kind of ripple down effect through the generations too. So yeah, just from your perspective, what do you think are positive ways and positive actions that we can take to just begin the process towards healing?
I think just acknowledging it in a truthful way and not trying to use undermining language to kind of dismissive in a way too. Like I've seen that happen. But just meeting people where they're at in a good way, I think, is always the best policy. Because like you don't know what you could say that could, trigger them, or even have the conversation go a different way too. But at the same time, I think it's there's also a lot of anger too that I've seen in especially Native people, Indigenous people. Like there's still that anger too. So even in the people of color, I have seen believers be super angry, but at the same time, like there like it's a degree more, I think, in a spiritual sense, because I felt like it was more of a grudge too, or not like trying to let go or be forgiving, but also like knowing and understanding that you can bring angry and you should be angry, but not the violent kind of angry. Because there's just been a lot of, I think, misunderstandings too of how people take things. Because for me personally, like I had a hard time with like other people's body language for a while. Like I couldn't understand. Like I would just be like, oh, they're on the defense all the time, or in other senses too, I would just be so angry all the time. Like, why am I so angry? And that does get in the way. Like if it's not in the righteous way or in a manner that's think in the way like creator sets free would be angry, because how angry he got was turning tables. So there is a sense, but at the same time I think like there is a time and place for that, since that was in a sacred place to get that angry in, not in a place where it's like where, and plus even here it says you need to try to make peace with everyone, like try to make peace with people. Like that's not what you're about of he's throwing anger out people, because I have met a lot of different people who are angry that did use their anger in a negative way instead of a positive one. I don't, does that answer your question? In some senses, like it's gonna take a while, but you just gotta remember that we're all human beings, and I think just being in a mode of forgiveness, like even like being humble too, and just treating people as a human being, I think is the number one thing that people should just do, so that you're not getting the ugly side of a traumatized person. But to me, I think like most of the world is traumatized. Like there are some things that you see every day, but then now you're like, wait, I don't think that's right for someone to be doing. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, because it's so easy to just feel completely overwhelmed by the enormity of it, and you see that a lot. People just like throw up their hands, like what can you do? And but I think when you look at the example of the early disciples, like they found ways to persevere amidst like really intense persecution and oppression. So there's ways to live in love despite all the hate. So just trying to like what ideas people had to kind of, explore that process, and how we can try to be a light rather than just, throwing up our hands and giving up to the darkness. Chikapikwe, I see that hand.
Hey, I just want to kind of add a bit more of with the residential schools and the boarding schools. A lot of that took away how we coped, like healthy strategies. And so, like for myself, what I'm trying to do is going back to some of those traditions, those practices, rites of passages, those ceremonies that helped us grieve, helped us let go of trauma. And so that's kind of because otherwise we're continually being traumatized because we haven't addressed the trauma, and we haven't been able to really fully heal, even because most times, like when you've lost somebody, you have that time of grieving, right? Like that process of the wake, of the funeral, of the burial. But a lot of that just as an example, that has been taken from us. Just even that process of how traditionally, depending on the nation, but like I'll speak for myself, it's a 4-day, it's supposed to be a 4-day wake, and that's like 4 days of being awake with the person who's passed on. But even how wrapping that person and preparing, a lot of that stuff we're relearning and trying to reclaim, and so a lot of that's been detached and broken. And so then as broken people, we continue to hurt not only ourselves but our community. And so it's trying to figure out how, because what I'm learning is that the Western, and I kind of spoke of this before, Western therapeutic modalities don't address that deep-seated ceremony that we once used. And for thousands and thousands of years, those ceremonies were so integral in our way of life, to be able to move and to work together as a community. Because again, Westernized thinking is all individualistic. And so of being able to grieve together, to heal together, and then because even our with Creator, like there's such a tanglement of as you're trying to heal from your own trauma, it's hard to look beyond yourself because it's self-preservation, right? It's about survival. So how can you look beyond and connect with others and connect with Creator when you just want to survive and you want to live? And so it's almost having to figure out, how do we heal again? And for me, it's like what I'm learning is going back to ceremony, going back to land, because I'm seeing that with the young women that I'm working with, and how much they're opening up of just, for me, providing that space of healing on the land, and that they know that they're not alone, and that we're all crying with them, and we're grieving those losses together, as opposed to, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but of going to a therapist or a counselor, like that's usually a one-on-one, whereas we're in circle, and we're in circle healing and learning and crying and like all of that stuff, and being able to pray together. And that power of prayer, of when you have not just one individual, but then praying together as a group, but to be praying in a circle is so beautiful and powerful. And you see that of the change and the transformation that's happening. So I'm kind of going off and my brain's not fully functioning, but okay, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you, Jacoby. That's where I was understanding like where we needed to go to, but at the same time, the work is being done little by little, I think, because you too, like you have to, like you said, deal with your own trauma, heal your own trauma, but then how do you offer that to other people and understanding? I think it comes first from healing of your own self first, just like what they say with loving yourself first. Like that's where it comes from within, as opposed outward in. And I can see that too, even with scripture, how they say like it's what's in your heart that's going to be spoken, um, as opposed to anything else. And then, like if your thoughts in your heart are in a bad place, like, it's going to show. Um, and it may be easier for people to hide too, but you can't hide it from Creator sets free. He always knows what's going on. If you're sensitive to that and to the spirit, like it does help and it will help. And just understanding, knowing like what you said, even within the community efforts too, especially when you're surrounded by people that just want the best for you, and understanding that's kind of what your own family missed out on. It does hurt, but at the same time, you're like, okay, at least, not more at least, but it's more of I'm doing the work for them, even the students, like helping them understand all the stuff that's coming at them, especially too in the world, even the messages of the world too, like helping them understand who they are in this world, and it does, and helping them to understand that this world does not define who they are, but the Creator defines who they are, and no one else has that authority other than Creator sets free, Creator of the Holy Spirit.
A couple things. Ray Martell said, Richard Twist once asked us how we knew Creator had called us to serve Native people, or we would not be used effectively. It's important to be sure of your calling, whatever that may be. That's a good word. And also, I was going to welcome Namar. Yay! We've all been praying for you. Yay! Good to see you.
Hey, just want to say thank you so much for the prayers. Thank you for the love. I really appreciate it. It's been almost a week now since it happened, and after days of stretching and pain pills and doing the exercises that I can do, and again with much prayers, I feel back to normal. Today I woke up with a bad headache because that's another thing. It's been back and neck stiffness and headaches. But now after all of that, I feel back to normal now. So thank you very much. Much love. I can't thank you enough, and I can't express how deeply I love and appreciate you all, for this. So yeah. It was a hit and run accident. I got rear-ended. And the collision knocked me off balance, and I kind of swerved a little bit to the side, and then I looked to my right, and then the driver, they come driving to the side of me, they're laughing, and then they drove off, and I couldn't catch them. But so I just got to leave it in God's hands. But alive, recovered. So
some ways that kind of reminds me of what we're like talking about here tonight. Like, you know, colonizers just hit and run on native people and like just drive off laughing while they're suffering.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that's what I thought too.
Hey, how about that?
Me too.
Okay.
Oh,
Me too. Did you hear that? Doesn't work very good to have two speakers, two different things, two TVs going at one time. Okay, that's all. But I'm with y'all. I agree.
Oh, yeah, let me know when, Ron?
Yeah.
I know we're gonna do a song, then the sending off blessing, but I kind of feel like, I don't know, Preston, how are you feeling? Like, I'm kind of feeling like we should do some kind of a prayer or something. Or would that just be involved with your sending off blessing at the end? You're muted.
I was kind of thinking about when you bring this up. I was thinking about doing ghost dance. If you can wing that at the last minute.
Let me see if I have everything for that.
Did anyone else have any more comments?
I can always say something.
All right. Yeah?
We're listening, Joe.
The voice from beyond.
Whoa. No, thank you, Heather. Man, I continually try to remind myself that we are miracles because we're here. And yeah, I have lots of stories that aren't mine because I stood with a lot of residential school survivors and their families and in Canada. And I always, in my head, I always debate about talking about things versus not talking about them because they hurt. And yeah, I just I give you props for sharing your story or some of your story, and you're inspirational and brave, and very happy to have been here to listen to you.
I can't remember how it goes. Is that the right song?
Yeah,
Oh, I had the mic on while I was fiddling around.
Oh.
I can't remember what the words are. Someone else can talk.
go to the 5th chord?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I will say though, it does get easier once you continue to share. Because the first time I did do one of these at Native University, yeah, it was a lot. And I continue to break through and weep my eyes out because like and understanding too, like those are really deep deep pains. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Heather, I agree. As especially as Indigenous women, as we continue to share, but not only just share, but use our voice, because for the longest time, our voices have been missing in the circles. And what I'm doing up here in Canada with our young women is because there's so many times when they come into the circle, they're shy, they don't want to say anything, or like they'll, when we're in the sharing circle, they'll say, "I'll pass," or they come with their hair covering their eyes, their face, so we can't see them. But then it's just like slowly just giving them that space that it's okay to share. Because I think for and for Indigenous men, but I just can speak for women because that's my experience. And like even for myself, of sharing, like I've shared here a few times, just my story and that vulnerability, because we're always, well, like questioning ourselves, or embarrassed, or still carrying that shame, and it's these spaces that provides that safety to be able to share and to be and our words to be accepted as our truth, because I think that's always been questioned in the past, and at times even today. But because our voices are getting stronger, we're standing in our truth, and to that point where it doesn't matter what other people think, but it's for ourselves, and that being able to share our truth in these spaces. And so every time hearing other Indigenous women share, it strengthens me as well, and so it gives me that hope as we move and make changes, and it's that ripple effect that will create that change for generations that come after us.
Yeah, I worked with a lot of school age children, and just I also thought of them too. Like I get to touch on that, but just working with the children in the city of Albuquerque system, like it was also pretty hard, just because I actually did go to the underserved area, or the impoverished, or the people of color communities. These are where these schools were, and to hear what was going on in these students, these students, I was just like, what in the world? Like and I realized, I was like, oh wait, this is the world that we're living in right now. And so it shocked me, but it also made me realize like how much they needed to be supported and uplifted, and to know and understand that there is someone who is an adult who is worried about them, who cares for their safety and cares that they're doing well and things like that. Yeah, because they really are pretty bad areas in terms of crime and their own home environment. It's very interesting to hear their stories, especially from a child's perspective, and you're just, but at the same time, to just be there to listen, I think, was where I learned how to be there for my own students who now are college age. So, and I do feel it on my heart too, like for me to serve the children and really to serve people that are lost, or children of the lost, because there's a lot of there are a lot of people who are missing, and like even Joe and Jacob kind of hinted to, like, we are miracles that we have survived, and that our ancestors were able to meet and have children, and be able to retain some identity or some culture. And some of it, yeah, it's a lot to work through, but I think by helping the people see, like, other people are going through the process of healing, and that can hurt too. Healing is not without its hurts as well, because you do have to relive and give those who Creator sets free. And every time I do that for myself, as like I envision it as kind of like you do in varsity stuff too. I envision it being nailed on the cross, and I'm like, oh, it did hurt, and then I realized, like, how much I've suffered, but then to really empathize with the Creator sets free, and how much He sacrificed just to heal us and to heal this world, I think. And then and I do see that too with men, because I say Indigenous peoples too, because in Albuquerque it's actually the men that go missing more than the women. And I'm not sure if that's the case all over the country, and because of all these task force, like, there are actually statistics happening now on that, and it's a lot higher. And I think when other people start revealing their information, the states, I don't think Albuquerque's the worst city. I mean, we know our Indigenous people, and we know the stories of areas that are extremely Indigenous unfriendly. Yeah, there was a documentary, it was Hear Her Voice, that was on PBS a while back, if you want to learn more about any of the information we're talking about. Yeah. Good to go, Grovers.
Yeah, I guess we'll try to wing it here and see what happens. All right. Let me see. Is that it? Make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Okay. Then. Okay. I want to go where the blind can see. I want to go where the lame will walk. I want to see the sick ones clean, where the deaf can hear and the silent talk. Said, where are you going? To a ghost dance in the snow. I am a mighty warrior wanna go where the dead are raised, where the mountain lion lays down with the lamb. I wanna stand where God is praised. Wanna ride across the plains to the promised land. Said, where are you going? To a ghost dance in the snow. I am a mighty warrior, and I'm finally coming home. Where I'm going, don't need to raise your voice. No starvation, have plenty to eat. No guns, no wars, no hateful noise. Just a victory dance, never taste defeat. Well, there's nothing done or said that can't be forgiven. Every step you take's on solid ground. Walk away from death to the land of the living, where all the lost souls are finally found. Said, where are you going? To a ghost dance in the snow. I am a mighty warrior, and I'm finally coming home. Said, where are we going? To a ghost dance in the snow. We are mighty warriors, and we're finally coming home. Yes, we're finally coming home.
Thank you, Brian. That was something that we all need to hear, that our family members will come home. They'll be part of a long journey of, ever since the pandemic, that's a big thing that's coming to my mind, especially for when I drive back. I pray for my ancestors to start heading back, especially from those that have went to Fort Sumner. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your Monday night and be able to hear what Christ is doing in every part of your life, and be able to see how we can be a bigger part of that. Now let's pray. Let us hear the wind. Let the wind soften your heart. For me, the wind is always like God. God, thank you for always being here. Thank you for allowing us to be part of this. Thank you for allowing us to be part of something, your great plan. Thank you for allowing us to hear your great work, and that you have an awesome, and even I even feel it. You have something planned for the Native people, and that they will be mighty warriors, and they'll be on the way home. Thank you for the fulfillment of you and being part of you. Thank you for fulfilling our hearts and rekindling our light, and be able to strengthen others and give that strength to others. Thank you. Be the nourishment of ourselves and the others that we need. As the day ends, what is done is done. What is not done is not done. And let it be. In good name we pray. Amen. Again, thank you for being here with us. We'll be here again next week, and also on Wednesday for the women.
The dogs have their own amen.
Wow. I think it was a donkey. Oh, man.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you all next week then.
You're gonna do a little hangout time since we already.
No, we don't have time tonight. All right.
Oh, it's just for the recording.